Everyone, welcome back to the It's a Mind Game podcast. My name is Jade, and today I have the most awesome woman to introduce you to because she has a journey that I know so many of you have been longing to hear about. So Anita is a mother of two. She's a trainer and assessor in early childhood education and care studies. And she also does the office admin for her family business. So as you can tell, she is busy, busy, busy. But Anita's also in her 30s and went through HA recovery post-children, which is still super common, but I guess not the most common story that we hear about. Before I bring Anita in, I just want to give you a heads up that Claudia and I are running a 5-day HA recovery challenge in December. So I will pop the links in my Instagram bio for that one if you want to join in, or you can just send me an email and I'll get you involved. But for now, welcome, Anita.
Hello all. Thank you. Thanks, Jade.
Oh, I'm so excited. Now, no better place to start than at the very beginning because it's been a roller coaster, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's been huge, and the whole time I've dreamt of this moment to be able to tell my story. And I remember right back at the start, I drove to Toowoomba, like when I was first diagnosed, and during that time I was listening to a heap of podcasts, and I thought to myself, I can't wait till my story's like this. And I certainly didn't expect it to take as long as it did, but anyway, we're here now. So
we're here, and I feel my heartstrings being tugged already because we actually started working together a couple of months ago. And I also love and respect a big part of your journey is because you went to different sources to get help in the different areas that you needed it to aid the whole journey. And I know that's a resistance a lot of women feel. It's like, I can do it myself, I don't want the help. But you are actually really great in going like, no, I'm going to get everything I can from the first person, and then I'm going to ask the next person how they can help me, and then the next, and then the next. And obviously that led to where you are now. Let's go back to the beginning. How did it all begin, I guess? Did you first lose your period? What was your exercise like? How did it all start?
Yeah, sure. So I guess looking back, it started before I realised. My husband and I, we were in 2017, we were looking at buying a mechanic business, and the purchase was quite large and probably a little bit out of our comfort zone, well, my comfort zone. And with that, there was a whole heap of things that happened in that sale. And with that, I developed an amount of stress that I've never, ever experienced before. So something happened, and that just caused me to start losing sleep. I wasn't able to process anything. I couldn't function. I couldn't mum. I just was a mess, to be honest. Like, put it simple, I was a mess. Anyway, fast forward, that sale fell through and life kind of got back on track. But I remember saying to my husband then, and I was on the pill then, but I remember saying to my husband, it's really weird. Since that, my period has gone from like a 5 day, so like a 5-day bleed down to a 2. And anyway, life went on. That was not really, nothing stood out. I just put it down to stress and everything was fine. And during that journey though, I was given some medication from my doctor to help me sleep because I just was so anxious about the sale. And that I'm assuming made me gain a fair bit of weight. So my weight came to a place that I'd never seen before. And so with that, I am an ex-competitive swimmer. So sports has been my life. I've always been an exerciser. I've always trained. So it was easy for me. My kids were swimming at the time. So it was easy for me to just say, you know what, instead of sitting down watching the kids, I'm going to get in and start swimming. And it all started then, probably around 2018. And what started off as a simple weight loss journey soon became an addiction and a bit of a problem. So I started, of course, I started restricting what I was eating and, only eating what the internet told me to do, because I was, of course, Googling, how to lose weight. And So of course that came to eating 1,500 calories or even sometimes 1,200. It just, the internet, the diet culture on the internet is so misleading. And it was like, only eat this, only eat that, don't eat fruit because it's got too much sugar, and don't eat this. And, that became really confusing. And I started doing that, and of course started seeing results. And with that, I'd set like a goal weight and well and truly reached that and smashed that. And of course I was like, oh, cool, I'll just keep going with this. And so I did, and I kept going. And then it kind of plateaued. And then when you plateau, you're like, okay, well, now how do I lose stress? Like, so then I cut calories even more and added in more exercise or mixed it up a little bit. And that went on. A big standout for me was probably Christmas 2 years ago, I think it was. We went away, as we do, on our annual holiday, and my girlfriend and I, who, we would exercise together, I'd say, let's get up in the morning and go and exercise. And she's like, yeah, let's go a little bit later though. She wanted to have a little bit of a sleep in, and, we were on holiday. So of course she deserved that. But I was like, no, like I want to go now. Like I need to fit in 2 hours, and I'm not just going to at this point, I didn't realize, but at this point I wasn't sleeping very well. So, I was awake at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't want to wait till 5 or 6, when she was ready to go. So I was like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to go. And looking back now, I think, oh my God, what a horrible person. Like, I just can't believe that was me. And I was doing 2 hours of exercise, that every single day during that Christmas holidays. But I'd be finished by 5:30, and then my day would start. And I look back now and I think, God, that was crazy. But and then that kind of went through, I think, around then was when COVID started happening. And I wasn't too concerned about being in lockdown because it meant I could exercise more. So I already had all the equipment in my lounge room. I was training 2 hours a day, doing weights training, swimming training, ocean training, triathlons, like you name it, I was doing it. And I loved it. Like I didn't train because I wanted to lose weight. I trained because that was definitely part of it, but I trained because I genuinely loved it, and it's been a part of my life. And then I got to a point where I went to see a dietitian because I was like, obviously something's going on here. I'm weeing all the time. I'm cold all the time. I'm super skinny. Maybe I'm not eating enough. So I thought, okay, well, I need to go and see a dietitian and work out how to fuel these workouts, because I wanted to keep doing them. I wanted to keep competing. So I did. I went and seen a dietitian. She asked the question and said to me, what's your menstrual cycle like? And I said, oh, well, in all honesty, I've just stopped the pill. I think it was about 3 months, like 3 months prior to that. And I said, my husband had just had a vasectomy, so it was time to stop the pill. So I stopped, and my cycle never returned. And that's when she was like, oh, that can be normal. The pill is probably still, your body's still working itself out. So once you, give it a couple more months and come back and see me, and we'll go from there. And so I did, and I seen her in the August, and this was August, not last, was it last year? Oh God, I lived
2019.
August 2019.
Yeah, because that's when the pandemic broke. So
that's right. Yeah. So no, it must have been August 2020 then.
Okay.
Yeah, August 2020, because then 2021 would have been August 2020. Yeah, so August 2020. So it was after COVID. And she'd said to me, how's everything going? Has your cycle returned? And I was like, no, it hasn't. And that's when she was like, okay, well, you need to go and see your GP, get some blood tests, and we'll find it. She's like, it's probably just because your body fat percentage is low. It's nothing major. It'll come back, and rah, rah. So I did. I went and seen my GP, and she ran some bloods, and of course they all came back non-existent. And she wasn't phased either. She was like, that's okay, you're probably just going through menopause. And I was like, at 33, like, I don't know. Like, and I remember sitting in there and saying to her, you know, I'm training like a mad woman. I'm quite restrictive on my diet, you know, trying to be healthy, wanting to make sure that I was the healthiest version of myself. And that was what the internet told, that's how the internet told me to do it, was to, you know, only eat this much and to train this much. And she was like, no, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You know, that's
Wow.
you're super healthy. That's fine. Like, you know, that, yeah, no, that's great. Keep that up. And she wasn't concerned at all. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And she said, come back it was like a month or a week and we'll retest. And if it's the same, then, you know, it means you're on menopause, you're going through menopause, and we'll just put you on some hormone replacement therapy and life will go on.
Sorry, can I just, so at this point in time as well, because this was a dietitian that you saw, I'm guessing that you would have submitted some food diaries. She'd be well aware of the amount of training you're doing.
No. Yeah, sorry. No, I did. Yeah, I did. She asked me, I didn't submit a food diary. I did remember talking to her in the clinic that day, and she asked me to go through everything that I was eating. And yeah, it was about 1,500 to 1,800 calories. And she did say to me, it's not enough. With the amount of training that I was doing, it wasn't enough. But she also said, try have a guzzle of milk before you train, and increase my carbohydrates. I think it was does 150 grams sound right? 150 grams each time. I don't really know, but something like that. She said, increase your carbohydrates. But other than that, everything was fine. So it didn't say increase it by thousands of calories, like, you know.
Yeah, it's not much.
Yeah. Yeah. So my GP had mentioned to, go on early menopause, that I was going through menopause, and that, you know, it was fine. I would just go on hormone replacement. The words hormone replacement frightened me.
How did that feel?
Yeah,
how did that feel, being told you're going through early menopause in your early 30s? You know, because at the most part, we don't expect things like that, gosh, to at least mid 40s. You know, there is variances, of course, but it tends to be, doctors do see low hormone and go, oh, must be menopause. You hear of stories even of women in their 20s of getting told the same thing. And it just blows my mind that there's no investigation. It's just, oh, menopause, of course. Yeah. And it's like, that's probably not the first thing on our list. And hormone replacement therapy is pretty intense. Like, if people need it, of course, you've got to do what you've got to do. But it's not a medication to be taken lightly by any means.
No, and that's exactly how I felt. Like, I was petrified when she said hormone replacement. And only since going through this, I've looked into it a lot further, obviously, and I'm actually not as scared of it now as what I was. But at the time, my knowledge of hormone replacement therapy was that it was going to give me breast cancer, and it was going to give me, you know, that's what I was led to believe from, you know, research. But after digging deeper and, you know, finding out more, I know that's not the case. But that just did not sit well with me. So I took that upon myself to find an answer. And of course, a lot of Googling. I came across Nicola Rinaldi's No Period Now What book, bought it straight away, and, you know, read it cover to cover, couldn't put it down. I was like, oh my God, this is me to a T. Like, this is so, it really spoke to me. And then from there, obviously, I started searching on Facebook, and that's when I came across Nicola's group and Claudia's group, and joined them straight away, and could not believe everyone that was in those groups was me. Like, it was so crazy that I was like, holy, this is not, I'm not the only person. Like, there's so many out there that are going through this, and that was really great to know that I wasn't the only one. So yeah, I joined them. I reached out to Claudia, and we had a few, so I'm just going to close this door, it keeps ringing. I reached out to Claudia, and we had a phone session, or like a Skype session, and I remember being so scared, because my world had come crashing down, and I knew that I was supposed to stop exercise. I was supposed to almost double what I was eating, and, you know, that just didn't, I wasn't comfortable with that. And Claudia was amazing. She was so supportive, and she didn't tell me I had to quit exercise. Like, I'm very I listened to the advice that I'm given, but at the same time I was so scared. And I was seeing, by this time I was seeing an endocrinologist as well. And I just remember Claudia being so soft and comforting. That's what got me through those initial days, because I was really scared of what the outcome would be. And now looking back, I think, oh, what was I so scared of? But at the same time, it's when you're in it, it's, as you would know, it's huge.
Terrifying, yeah. What were your main fears when you heard about this Eat More, Train Less protocol?
Definitely the weight gain. Definitely. I didn't want to gain the weight. And I don't know, I guess not being able to train, but only because I knew that, not being able to train meant that I was going to gain the weight, and losing that fit girl identity. And, I did have that fit girl identity, and I did, my kids as well were a big part of that. Like every morning we would train together, and it was what we did. On weekends we would compete together, and we were heavily involved in the Surf Lifesaving Club, and I was, competing at, Surf Lifesaving not titles, but like branch, and some like ocean swims, like the Mooloolaba Mile, and, things like that. So that was cool. And I would love running through the finish line and hearing my kids be like, yeah, Mom, go, that was really cool. And that I knew that all that was going to come to an end, but at the same time, I knew that it wasn't going to be forever. So I think that's what frightened me the most, was losing that connection. Not the connection, because I will still have the connection, but losing that ability to train with the kids.
Yeah, because that was a special part of your like family life, wasn't it? Is having that routine. And I guess if we slingshot forward, that played a really big part in, I guess, your period coming back, because we did have talks about how you feel towards exercise, and you definitely did grit your teeth through the process and jump all in. So I don't want to shortcut your journey by jumping ahead to sort of when we first met. But how did the first steps go down for you? Did you literally go, that's it, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid, I'm going to go all in, and just, or was it very much, I'm going to eat a little bit more, I'm going to stop, I'm going to take training, I don't know, I'll skip on 5 minutes, but I'll do the 2 hours and 45 minutes or 1 hour and 45 minutes?
Yeah, so I certainly fought the process the whole way. And you know what, that's probably what took me so long. But I initially met with Claudia, I think in like September or October of 2020, and was like, okay, I get it. Yep, I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm exercising way too much and I'm not eating enough. So I'll start eating a little bit more and I'll reduce my exercise a little bit. So at that stage, I had a routine of like Monday, Wednesday, Friday was cardio, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was weights, and Sunday was a rest day, but Sunday would come and I'd still end up doing something.
Active recovery.
That was my routine. And so I can't remember exactly how I cut it down, but I ended up, instead of doing 2 hours 6 days a week, I cut it down to like 4 or 5 days a week and only an hour. And so up until January of this year, I was still lifting quite heavy weights. I was still swimming 3 kilometers and making sure I burnt so many calories, and, making sure that I hit certain speeds and splits. And
so you still had a lot of like goal orientated tasks with training. It wasn't just like, I'm just going to move for 45 minutes or move for an hour. It's like, no, must burn the calories, must lift the weight, must swim the distance. So you were definitely taking that step forward to reduce things, but the intensity on what you must achieve during that time was still very prominent.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that went on until January, and even over, once again, we went away for Christmas like we do. It's like an annual thing. We went away for Christmas and I packed my weights and I packed my joggers, and it's an amazing, we go to 1770 and it's an amazing run up the hill that it's great. It's like tranquil. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's really cool. So I love that run. So we did that run, but then we, come back, and there was a few other girls there that I would train with. So there was, 3 of us, and we'd set up little circuits in our little camp area, And it was fun, like we loved it. And honestly, we're about to go again this year, and I'm still umming and ahhing whether or not I take them, but I know it'll be completely different for me this year. But yeah, I don't know, I probably will just leave them at home.
Hang on, but like what a huge change there.
Oh, massive.
You know, from last Christmas where it was still fun for you. Like it wasn't oh my gosh, must go hard. Like there was that fun aspect to it, to this year where you're going, oh, should I, shouldn't I? Like there was no stress attached to that. It was just, what do I want?
Yeah.
What do I need?
It's so different. Like there's no anxiety attached to it at all anymore. So
good.
Yeah, and then I came home from there and seen my endocrinologist. And looking back now, my bloods had improved, and they had improved. Like I remember talking to Claudia, and she's like, I don't know what you're so upset about. Like they have definitely improved. But my endocrinologist, it was her words that hit me hard. And she said to me, you're never going to recover. You have to stop exercise. This is crazy. You've made a little bit of progress in your bloods, but you have to stop exercise. And that sent me into by that point, like before I seen her, I was kind of, yeah, this is cool. I can do this. Like I'm a lot calmer. I can eat, I'm not so strict on checking menus before I go to places and things like that. Like I was adapted like a lot. I was, more calm, and I was able to still enjoy things without being so strict like I was before. But when I went and seen her, she'd said to me, no, you're still not gaining enough weight fast enough, and your hormones are still in a, I don't know, I guess suppressed state. So I left her, and I remember messaging Claudia, like I was meant to go back to work and I just could not function that day. I was like, how am I going to go without exercising at all? And so I messaged Claudia, and I think I called her just a mess. And I'd said to her, like, what do I do? And she's like, like she was just so calming, and that was her voice was calming. And she'd said to me, it's fine, we'll get through it. And she really reassured me that and whilst agreeing with her, but she was also wanting me to do it in my own time so that I wasn't so frightened about the whole thing. And so she said to me, how about we take weight training away but replace it with Pilates? And how about we take swimming away or your cardio away but replace it with like yoga? Or I think at that point it was, let's take the cardio away but replace it with really light swimming, but only a half an hour and only like a kilometre instead of 3. And after I spoke with her, I did feel a lot calmer because I had an action plan, and I knew where I was going to go with it. So once again, I shouldn't say once again like it was that easy, because it wasn't. It was a really, really hard week or two, because it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I knew I had to. And so with that, I started swimming just that half an hour, and replaced my weights with Pilates. And in the end, I kind of was like, oh, Pilates, what's the point? Like for me, it was more frustrating, because I was like, I may as well just sleep in and do nothing. So
no, I love it, because that's why I ended up going all in after 11 months of training and eating more. So I'm like, I'm achieving nothing.
Yeah.
Like I'm so frustrated. This is bullshit. And the decision come out of pure frustration.
Yeah.
And like, good. It wasn't like no, I must get my period. That was there. Like I wanted it. But it was purely like I've achieved nothing at the gym for God knows how long now. And it is really rubbing me up the wrong way. Like
I can so understand that. I was just I'm like, I'm not doing Pilates and yoga. Like this shit's crap. Anyway, people love it, and good on them.
No, but that's where the journeys vary though, because like for you and I, that was the tipping point in the next step of our recovery. Is for some, it's like, no, I'm actually really enjoying restorative movement. And like I did enjoy yoga, and I did that during the all-in part. I just walked and did yoga. But I'm really glad I wasn't achieving anything at the gym, because that's what facilitated the next decision to go, I'm just not going to train. I'm not going to pick up a weight. I'm not going to go for a run. I'm going to do nothing intense for 4 weeks, because I'm just sick of achieving nothing.
Yeah, I get it. And so pretty much for me, it got to that point too, where I was holding on to any clutch of some sort of exercise that I could. And winter was coming. At this point, I was probably only swimming 3 times a week. I ditched the Pilates. I was just swimming. Mind you, I was still so anxious. I remember sitting down at my desk working, and I could feel like my pants getting tighter, and I was like, oh, my heart would, I'd get like anxiety attacks because I'm gaining weight. And it certainly wasn't easy. And winter was coming. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do it, I may as well do it now. Winter's coming. I can chuck on some jumpers. I can chuck on some track pants, and I'll have all of winter off. And then hopefully if I do that, I'll be back in the water come September, August, September, it'll be fine. I'll get back in the pool. Everything will be fine. I would have had 3 periods by then and everything will be great. So I did it. And my alarm was set. I spoke to my husband and I said to him, do you think that, because it was always me taking the kids swimming training. I said, do you think that you could take the kids swimming training for a bit for me so I can try and sleep in and really try and hone in on recovery and rest and just repair my body? And of course, he was amazing. Like at this point, he had researched HA and he'd liked HA pages on Instagram, and just to try and, he obviously could see that I was really struggling. And he by this point was like, yeah, that's what you need. Absolutely. You need to do that. So that's fine. So he started taking the kids to swimming training, and I would once I was awake, I couldn't go back to sleep anyway. So I'd wake up and make a cup of coffee, and 9 times out of 10, I'd just start work because I was like, oh, what else am I going to do? This is, so I'd go and sit in my office and start marking assignments or doing some sort of work. And that went on for up until, I guess, just before I got my period back. But and it wasn't easy. Like that process was really hard. I hated not training. I hated not exercising. But at the same time, I definitely needed it because I got to where I was. And then at some point, when was it that when I started working with you? I think it was like August-ish, was it?
I think it was around about August, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, so one of the girls that I'd met along the way, and she's in the HA community, she and we reached out, I don't know, I think it was right back at the start of her journey, I reached out to her and, just to let her know that, hey, I'm here if you need anything. It's really hard. It's not going to be easy. And we just clicked. Like I remember she'd asked a question and I was like, can I just give you a call? Because this is way too hard to explain, over text. So I called her and I think we were on the phone for like a long time anyway. And ever since we were like, oh my God, I can't believe how similar we are. Like we just get along so well and we've never met. But so I remember speaking with her and she hadn't got her period back at that point. And I was like, you know what, I'm done with this. Once it gets to August, that's it. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. It's going to be nearly summer then, and I need to start training again. And I'd kind of missed the whole section of when I tried Clomid. So I'll go back, sorry. So when I think it got to about about May, June, I had enough. It was really, really hard. I'd given up 100 times, and I had a consult with Nicola Rinaldi, and I spoke to her, and she said to me, your LH has come up now, you're not so suppressed. How about we give Clomid a try? And I'd gone back to my endocrinologist who, and Nicola had given me a whole heap of letters and information to give to my endocrinologist. And I took that into her, and she was the rudest endocrinologist I've ever had in my life. She's just, not that I've had many, but she was just shocking. And I went into her and I said, I've been working with Nicola, I've been working with Claudia. These ladies have been through this process, and this is, Nicola's done heaps of research, and this is the research that she's found. And I gave that to her, and she took one look at it and she's like, well, that's not what we do in Australia, and kind of like palmed it off. And I was like, can we please just look into this a little bit? And she's like, look, I'll give it a go, but we're not doing the extended protocol, which is, the double hit of Clomid. We'll just do the normal protocol. So I got the script, and thankfully I got enough for 3 months of the script. So I took it upon myself to fill all those scripts and do the extended protocol following Nicola's advice. And I did that, and I did bleed after that, but it didn't come easy either. So I didn't get a positive OPK. I didn't get the sure signs of ovulation. I had some cramping and things like that. So I wasn't 100% convinced. And then I went and got the blood test. And because I had such a short luteal phase, so I supposedly ovulated, and then I think it was 5 or 6 days later, I had a little bit of a breakthrough bleed, but got the blood test 5 days later. So it, like 5 days before I bled. So it was, my progesterone was probably on its way back down by that point. And so when I got my blood test, my progesterone showed it was only 5.4. And I remember ringing Claudia and sending her a photo. I'm like, please put me out of my misery. Did I ovulate or didn't I? Like, I didn't know at that point. And she's like, oh God, I don't really know. Not that she didn't know, but she's like, I can't put you out of your misery, because that's one snapshot in a day out of 6 days, and we don't know whether or not it was higher 2 or 3 days earlier. And Nicola had, of course, said the same thing. She said it's hard to know. You probably did ovulate, but your peak progesterone was 2 days ago, and we missed that. So at that point, I'd kind of given up all hope, and then gone to the toilet the next day, and there was blood on the paper, and I was like, oh yes, I must have. So that was that cycle, and that was the very first time that I'd seen blood in the whole process. But the Clomid was very unkind. Like, it was insanely, I was just a mess. I was so sad that whole month of doing that. It really messed with my mental health. So I did do another round, but I didn't do the extended protocol. I did 100 milligrams, and I didn't respond that round. So from that, that's when I reached out to you, because I reached out to Claudia, who put me in contact with you. And it scared me to think of how sad I was during that time. And I knew that it was a mind thing, and I knew that it was, I had to be okay with the weight gain, and I had to accept the weight gain, and I had to accept that this is what was happening, and not just accept it, but be comfortable with it and get on with my life. But I didn't know how to do that. And so that's when, I started working with you, and you really challenged me to, when I had those thoughts of, oh my God, I don't fit into this, or oh my God, I don't fit into that. And I remember, and it really sits with me, and I pass it on to other people that are going through it, when you said to me, this isn't forever, but it's not forever, but it is today. Or is that how you say it? No, it's not forever, but it is for now. And I was like, so every day I would say to myself, this isn't forever, but it is for now. This isn't forever, but it is for now. And, I'd tell myself that. And also, how I remember you saying to me, when you're pregnant, your body changes so much, and then, you have your baby, and, your body doesn't look how you exactly want it to look, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to look for the rest of your life. And, you'd said the same to me, that, during HA recovery, your body's going to change, and it's not necessarily going to be there like that for the rest of your life. And so I had those thoughts in my head, and I, printed out the affirmations and tried really to be really positive. And I remember going fishing with my family, and I really thought something was going to happen that month. It was August, and I just started working with you, and my libido had came back, and out of nowhere, like, I was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? Like, this is crazy. And I remember, sorry, Mum, if you're listening to this, but I remember ringing my husband and saying, come home for lunch. And, things like that, where that had never happened before. So I really thought that month was going to be it. And I'd done the hard yards, and I'd, put in the hard work, and I'd done everything that I needed to do, and it was going to happen. And then it didn't come. And I was gutted again. Then I'd reach out to you, and I'd reach out to Claudia, and, I think I'd said 100 times, that's it, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. It's too hard. My heart's breaking. I'm trying so hard. I'm giving this all I've got, and I'm getting nothing in return. And of course you girls would, be, yes, you are, you're doing everything fine, you're doing everything great. It's just taking a little bit longer. And, I started working really closely with Nicola as well by this point, and she was the same. She was like, you're doing everything amazingly. You definitely, your food's fine. I sent Claudia food diaries. I searched high and low for the answers, and at the end of the day, it was just my body needed the time, I guess.
But there was a few big things that I guess that happened around about that time too. And I'm glad you brought up what you did about the libido side of things, because the period coming tends to be like the icing on the cake. Like your body's doing so many things to heal the damages that have been done over time, that we kind of just think that all we need is the bleed. But like your libido kicking back in was like a massive step of your hormones coming back into action and like the revival happening. But when we're so stuck on just the bleed, it feels really hard to acknowledge those steps. Like you felt good in that moment, like, yes, I have a libido, this is good. And then because it didn't lead to other things, it was like, oh, well, that's worth nothing.
Yeah.
But it still was worth so much. It's like, well, when was the last time you had a libido? It had probably been a good year by that time. And what a beautiful natural response that occurred that day when you went, oh, well, hello there, I'm back. Here I am.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I remember correctly too, when we had some of our conversations as well, you did feel some sort of insecurities about if someone was to hug you or things like that, because you were so self-conscious of the weight gain. It was sort of hard to enjoy, say, a cuddle because you thought that they were noticing your shape.
Yeah.
And one of the things we spoke about, because it is common, is that teaching your mind that like someone's giving you a hug because they want to show you love. Like they love and appreciate you. They're not scanning your body to feel changes or to assess you. And just like you hug any other family member, it isn't a body check. But because we are body checkers, we tend to present that onto other people and think that they're doing the same. Did you find that when we sort of had a bit of that conversation, that helped sort of alleviate some of the body discomfort that you had?
Yeah, definitely. And I always try, and I still do it to this day, like I try and put myself in, like, I don't check people's body when I hug them. So why would people do that? Or, I don't look at people and think anything bad because they've gained weight. Like we had a customer come into our workshop who had gained a little bit of weight, and I didn't care. So it didn't affect me in any way. They're still the same lovely person they always were. And I always try and put that back and say, well, how come, why are you caring so much when no one else does, so just let it go. And that mind work that I did with you really helped me to challenge those thoughts. So yeah, definitely.
No, and you did so well. And the mindset stuff, it's hard. We've been taught to think a certain way for so long. And don't get me wrong, we've taught ourselves to think this way after reading different things and then putting our own spin on it. And breaking through the mindset really is, I guess, the liberation of it. And what you started to recognize later on. And I remember one time in particular, because when I guess we first started talking, you did feel very out of control, like everything was happening to you rather than being like, no, things are happening for me, and I can do tough things. Like I'm determined, I'm motivated, like I get stuff done. And we sort of look back at your swimming history and how you're a mom and how you manage your business and you work and you've got a family. Like if it's one thing we know is that you know how to get stuff done. But during HA recovery, I guess some of the point that made everything feel so unshaky was that there was no timeline, there was no exact plan, and sort of bringing things back to going, no, but the plan is that I just need to rest, I just need to eat more, and having confidence in knowing that you're doing everything within your power to allow your body to heal and get a period back. And for anyone listening, like you must know, Anita did that. She really tried so hard to execute everything to the best of her abilities and persevere. And I know one thing that kept popping up in our conversations was like acknowledging that other people are getting their period and you're not getting yours, and I say that as like it happened to me, it's happened to many women around, how did you start to navigate those times when you're doing great, like you're doing everything you're told, you're starting to feel better about the process, you're starting to accept your body, like for the most part you're on the sunny side. It's hard, but you can see the light. How did you get through those times?
Yeah, they were tough, and they started really really hitting hard towards the end. So, I think once I hit that 12-month mark, no period, 12 months, I was like, God, this is not fair. I actually stopped responding. Like, I remember sometimes some women would be like, yeah, I get my period. And wow, congratulations, that's so exciting. And then I think it got to the point where I was like, whatever, I'm not even going to read it anymore. And I actually stopped following, like at the start of recovery, I had gone into Instagram and I'd liked every single HA recovery page there was, just every single page, because I wanted that constant reminder, this is what I had to do, this is how I had to fix my body. But by this point I was like, no, I'm culling everyone's. And I think I kept yours, Nicola's, Claudia's, and maybe one or two others that I touch base with. And so I kept only a very small handful. And I kind of just, I think I remember talking with you about it, and you said to me, just stop scrolling through the pages and stop reading those comments, because it is hurting. And so that was tough, and I did have to go away for a little bit, and I did have to pull myself away from that. But
yeah, we put a bit of a time cap on it, I think, for a couple of weeks. Like you've got 10 minutes tops. Yeah. And I guess for anyone listening, that's, you don't have to get rid of Facebook groups and things like that. But if you're reading posts and information that's making you feel good and motivated to stick on the path, like that's great. It's helping you move forward. But if you are at a point, and it could only kick in for a week or two or a month or two, but no matter what, if you're in a time frame where you're reading these things and it's making you feel bad about yourself, please stop looking. And even if it's for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, or maybe it's a whole month, it doesn't matter. Like you can always go back and read. We're not like, it's totally up to you. But if you are in a position where it's getting you down and making you feel bad about yourself, like you don't need that right now. You need things that make you feel good. So stop reading that stuff and go find something that makes you feel better.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. So I stopped reading about all that sort of stuff. I had a handful of, by this time, and us, still women that I talk with now, there's probably a handful that we would check in on each other and how are you going, where are you at, and we all seem to be long recovery women, like women that were taking a lot longer. And so I would just kind of keep to us and check in on them and talk with them and talk through the challenges that we were going through. And that always really helped to have someone there knowing exactly how I felt. So I think just stepping back a little bit, and I think towards the end I really stepped back. I kind of missed the part where I went to my endocrinologist here in town, and she asked me to step on the scales, and I remember saying to her, oh no, sorry, I didn't say to her, I just looked away because I didn't want to see what the end result was. And she turned around and blurted it out and was like, oh, now you've gained too much weight, you need to probably be 4 kilos. And I remember it was like that 4 kilos, and I was like, why 4 kilos? Where does that number come from? But you're 4 kilos, and I looking at it now, it's obviously in the BMI scale, which we all know is a load of shit. You've gained.
But even just that instance, how far you've come, like she blurted out that number and said 4 kilo, and you questioned it and went, well, what do you mean? Like, where does that come from? But if you look back to 12 months ago, if someone had have said that to you, I'm assuming you probably would have had some kind of a panic attack. You would have ran straight to the gym, straight to the pool, cut calories. Like that would have sent you into a massive spiral, as it would anyone who's been in a position where they're addicted to dieting and over exercise. But in that moment, it's like, all right, well, you hadn't had your period back yet, but all of the work you would put in to get it made you really strong in that moment. And it still could have shaken you to your core a bit, like, oh, like, do you really need to be saying that? But you were so strong, and we're like, no, like, I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, admittedly, I wasn't 100% strong. I did come home and I did cry.
Yeah.
And I did, that was definitely hard. And needless to say, she's no longer my endocrinologist. And she referred me to the lovely Dr. Jang in Brisbane, who has been my rock as well. And working with her, she was just is absolutely beautiful. And
But she come across very kind and compassionate to you too. She wasn't aggressive or super forward, or it was very.
She wasn't like punish. Like my other doctor, it was almost like punishing me. You put yourself in this position, you need to get yourself out of it. Whereas Dr. Jang is just from the start. She was like, "What do you need? What do you need from me as your doctor?" And she was the one that. I'd said to her, I said, I need to get on with life. I'm so sick of this. It's now been coming up, it was like 13 months. I need to just get on with my life. I want to be able to train again. I need to, she's like, you've gained the weight. You're at a healthy weight. You need to, I want to see you get back into your life. But I said to her, but I don't know what my life is anymore. Like my life was training and, being there with my kids and entering into ocean swims and, all these things. And I said, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. And she said to me, and I think she said it before this too, and I think Nicola had also said it before this as well, but because it was so contradicting to what everything in HA recovery says, I didn't want to undo my hard work, but I just felt trapped. Like I did not know where to turn. I was like, do I listen to everyone saying to me, you can't exercise and you have to eat 2,500 calories until you get your period back? Or do I listen to my heart and myself and say, okay, well, I know now that I'm okay with food and I'm not worrying about what I eat. And, I'm not addicted to exercise and I don't have to burn so many calories. And I haven't worn my, fitness tracker for God knows how long. So it's not about tracking calories or anything like that. It's swimming because I genuinely want to swim and that's what I love. And I went to see Dr. Jang and she took some bloods and everything had plummeted. Like my LH was back down to 1. My estrogen was still stepping up a little bit. And at that point I was done. I was like I think the biggest hormone that we focus on in HA recovery is that LH, and making sure it's at that number that suggests that your hypothalamus is no longer suppressed. And I remember just being like, oh my God, I've given this my all. I've gained a weight that I've never seen on my body before and my LH is still 1. What am I doing wrong? Like I'm done. And so we had that conversation and I said to her, what can I do? And she said, I want you to get back in the pool. And I said, but that goes against everything. And it's not what you're told. And Nicola had said to me, Anita, I want you to get back in the pool too. Like it's, your mind is now impacting everything and, blah, blah, blah. And so I did. I blew the dust off my togs and I blew the dust off my swimming cap and goggles. And, I think I spoke with you and Claudia and said, this is what my plan is. And you guys were so supportive of that. And, I remember you saying like, yep, absolutely. You do what you need to do. Just remember, keep your heart rate low and, just do it for love, not to burn calories. And so I did. And I got in the pool and I remember diving in and just that first, deep breath of smelling the chlorine in the early morning was just soul curing. Like I don't even know what the word is. Like it was just, so soothing, and everything that I'd worked hard for, I kind of just was like, you know what, I don't even care anymore. I'm done with it and I'm just going to get on with life, but not my old life. Like I'm just going to get on with.
And that's the difference too. At the time where you did decide to add in the swimming, and I was so thrilled when you said you were going to add the swimming back in. And I'm assuming so many women listening to this are like, but what do you mean? As you said, you're not meant to do it. But I guess what listeners have got to understand is at this point in time, Anita had done all the mind work. She had made all of the shifts. Her nutrition was good. She was resting. Like she had done everything. But and please correct me if I'm wrong, but from my perspective, it's like HA, there's like an emotional healing that needs to occur as well. And I think you adding back in the swimming, it wasn't like just exercise. When we spoke, you felt like HA had taken you away from your community, like you used to exercise with friends, your kids. And while you'd found these beautiful women to bond with over HA recovery, there was still a part of you that was just lonely and longing for like a community, a love, just a very heartfelt thing. And you had that going swimming with your kids. And it felt to me like there was just a part of your heart that was lacking by not doing that. And so when you added the swimming in, it was like, yeah, your soul cup was filled. It wasn't, some people go for walks and they really enjoy it, but your swimming was like you're walking. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is going to heal you, because maybe even part of you thought you didn't deserve to do swimming again because it brought you so much joy. And it's like, no, HA is meant to be hard and you've got to grit your teeth and you've got to do everything wrong. But sometimes you also need to lean into what's going to make you happy. And you did deserve that. And when you went back, it's like, onions have got layers. It was like that final layer of just, I'm whole again. I'm complete. I don't know. I'm going to start rambling, Anita, but I was so happy for you when you did it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like I got in there and I just felt like I had direction again. Like for so long, I was just, I don't know, I felt like a zombie. Like I was just existing and I was just doing what I had to do because that's what my doctor had told me to do and that's what everyone had told me to do. But I wasn't happy and I didn't love it. And but don't get me wrong, like I know it had to be done, and I don't want anyone out there, listening, thinking like, oh well, she could exercise.
No, it's very context, like as in you had done a lot of time all in, and when you even went back to these swims, it was as though if someone was to go for a walk, like it was a very leisurely, low intensity swim. Like definitely anyone listening, not to be misconstrued, like it.
Yeah, it's not like I dove straight in and
it was like a therapy swim.
Yeah, it was a therapy swim. So I would stop at the end of every 50 meters and make sure my heart rate would come down and do everything that I was supposed to do. But it was just really, really soothing. And so that was that week. And then the next week I had to go away for work, and I don't even know why, because at this point I had stopped tracking my basal body temperature and I'd stopped weighing on OPK sticks. And my doctor was like, just let go of it all. Stop overthinking it and stop.
Because and if you think back to, there's so much stress attached with that. And I think even though you were doing it to make sure you were staying on track, there's almost like a bit of distrust as well, because you've got to keep proving that things are happening. Yeah. Where once you sort of jump back in the pool, it was sort of like, yes, you shrugged off those things every day, but a part of it was just like, I'm at peace with it. I'm just going to trust the process. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and what will be, will be.
Yeah, pretty much. So I stopped doing all that. And, but for some reason, and I still don't know why, but I was packing my stuff to go away, and I threw in a pack of OPK sticks, and I think I had like 6 or something left in this pack, and I put them in, and I got in the car that morning, and that morning, so I left here at like 5 o'clock. I wanted, because I was going to Toowoomba and they've got cool shops there. So I wanted to go, get there as early as I could so I could do a head of shopping before I met up with all my colleagues for work. And so I got down there and I was just super hungry that day too. And I was like, oh, what's wrong with me? I just keep eating. And I just put it down to travel, and I got down there and hit the shops and bought some stuff. And by that time it was like 11:30, and like I'd had breakfast and I had snacks along the way, but I was still starving, but I knew that I was meeting up with some of the girls for lunch from work, so I didn't want to, I just wanted to wait out till I met with them. And anyway, so I finally met them, but by this time I was, when you're like sick because you're hungry, and I had a headache and I was like shaky, and I was like, oh my God, like I need to eat.
I really need food.
Yeah, so we went to just this little cafe, and I quickly just grabbed the first thing that I could see that wasn't going to, needing to be cooked or anything. It was just, able to eat it. So I grabbed that and ate that, and that helped with the shakiness and everything, and I felt a little bit better. And then I still wanted to buy some clothes because, let's face it, we all need new clothes going through this process. So I wanted to buy some new clothes, and but at that point I just couldn't. I felt so shit that which is really funny because everyone says to you, you feel on top of the world when you're ovulating, and but to me, I don't know what it was. It just must have been, I don't know, I have no idea. And anyway, I had the worst headache. I was just really, I don't know, I just felt crap. So I went back to my motel room, and I ran a shower, and like I was just going to lay in the bath. Before I did that, I went to go to the toilet, and I was just like, oh my God, what is this? And like, it was the most cervical mucus I've ever seen in my whole life. And I did have an internal ultrasound 2 or 3 days prior to that. And the sonographer had said to me, she pointed out this black mass and said to me, that's a corpus luteum cyst. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever that is. And I said, what's that? And she goes, oh, that means that you've ovulated, and this is what happens after you ovulate. And I was like, I can't have just ovulated. Like just 3-4 weeks ago, my LH was 1 and there was no signs of anything. Like I can't have just ovulated. It's not possible. And she's like, well, that's what this is. And anyway, it turns out she obviously didn't know what she was really talking about, because then I actually got the report. And I remember, like, I think I messaged Claudia and Nicola, and I was like, what's a corpus luteum cyst? Like, this is what they're telling me that it is. And Nicola was like, no, that doesn't sound right, because same thing, this was your hormones just only a couple of weeks ago. And if you had ovulated, anyway, blah, blah, blah. That's not what it is. But maybe it's a follicle. And I was like, oh, I don't know. She didn't say it was a follicle, but anyway, we'll wait and see what the report says. And then when I got the report back, it turns out it was a 14 millimeter follicle. And so I was like, oh my God, like I have a follicle. It's a big one. Like I was so excited. And then kind of all that with seeing the cervical mucus at the motel room, I was like, it was all adding in. It was all piecing together. But at the same time, I still had my guard. I wasn't dropping my guard.
Well, because at this point too, you'd had things where it's like you got really excited, then you got let down. So it's like, no, don't get excited. Don't do it. You don't want the letdown.
Just deal with that heartbreak again. Yeah, no way. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go get an OPK stick. But I was also really, really sick that I didn't want to get excited. Like I wasn't excited because I was sick. And anyway, so I weed on a stick, and it came up with like a really dark line, but it still wasn't the positive that they talk about, that the line's got to be darker than the other line. So I was like, no, it's still not positive, but it is the darkest it's ever been. And anyway, so I kind of went to bed that night and woke up the next day, and I did another one. Not to be honest, I can't really remember, but I same thing, like there was a lot of egg white cervical mucus there, and I was like, this is like, I've never had this, so even if it's nothing, this is still a great
something,
because I've never really had this. And so I went to do another one, and I remember, like, normally when I wee on them, it takes forever to show up anything, and this one was like, bam, right there, this double line, and I was like, holy shit, like, is this what I think it is? And I remember taking photos, and I think I sent it to you girls, I sent it to Nicola,
it was gross.
Like I sent it to everyone, and I was like, I think this is like a double line, but it was still not 100%. Like it was 99.9, but it was not 100% of positive.
Look, you weren't ready to happy dance, but Claudia and I were happy dancing.
And I just was like, no, not. And so you guys were like, no, that's, that's really positive. That's really exciting. And I know Nicola was like, yeah, that's a positive. And I was like, no, I'm not. I can't accept it. And my endocrinologist at this point was also happy to look at an MRI, because she obviously didn't realize that I had just ovulated. And so she had sent me a whole heap of blood work and MRI paperwork to get that done. And so I had the blood work paperwork there, and I thought, well, I'm going to know in a couple of days whether or not I ovulated, because I've got the blood work paperwork here. And anyway, so I waited till I got home, and I was just beside myself that whole week, and even like into the next week. And I went and had the blood test done the following Monday. So that would have been 7 or so days after supposed ovulation. So I was like, Mom, yeah, maybe 6 or 7. So anyway, I went and had those bloods done, and I could not bring myself to read the results. I don't want to know. Like, I'm living in this land of I think I did, but I don't know. And I don't want that to come crashing down. So I did not. I emailed my doctor. And even when I was emailing her, I typed it out and I sat there.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Do it.
Yeah,
Don't do
it. Like, do I do it? Do I not do it? And anyway, so I eventually hit send, and it just was like, hey, can you give me some feedback on my bloods? Like, did I ovulate? Did I not? And she didn't respond. And I was like, well, this is really unlike her. Like, she always gets back to me. And anyway, we were going away that weekend. We'd planned a family weekend that we'd planned a couple of weekends.
Can I just say, the fact that she didn't respond, did you start to be like, no, she doesn't want to tell me no, so that's why she hasn't responded? Yeah, because just when you said she don't react fast, I'm like, I would have been making up stories as to why she's not responding. She doesn't want to let me down. She doesn't want to hurt my feelings. She's a really nice lady.
That's exactly what I thought was, she doesn't want to tell me. No, what was my no, I kept thinking to myself, if I had ovulated, she knows how bad I want this. If I had ovulated, she would have contacted me because she knows how bad I want it. So
how important it is. Yeah.
I have obviously.
It should be priority.
Yeah, that's right. Like everything, she's probably seeing a million patients, but I need to know. And if she hasn't contacted me, it means that I haven't ovulated. So I started, getting really sad and really disappointed. And anyway, the days went on, and I continued to work and packed our bags to go away. And that Friday morning before we were going away, I remember thinking to myself, I don't care if I get an email back from her, I'm not reading it, because I don't want this to ruin our family weekend away. Like, we had planned this weekend in the long weekend prior, when that big COVID scare hit the Gold Coast, and we cancelled it then. And so I was like, this is not going to ruin another weekend. So I was adamant that even if she did reply, I wasn't going to read it. Probably would have, but that was what I told myself in my head.
Of course.
I'm not going to read it. And anyway, that Friday morning before we left, I quickly went to the toilet, and there was like the slightest, you know what it looked like because I sent you all photos. But the slightest pink tin in my discharge, and I was like, oh, holy fuck, holy shit, like, oh my God, I think this is it. But no, don't get excited. It could be anything. You could have just scratched yourself, or always go back to that. No, don't let yourself get excited. And so I I got that. And I think I sent it to you guys. I sent it to Nicola, and I said, do you think this is it? And you all came back.
And the happy dancing began.
Yeah, the happy dancing began. And then as that day kind of went on, I think it kind of pretty much stayed like that on the Friday. And the Saturday morning I woke up, and it was a little bit darker, but it was like brown again. And, and I was like, oh shit, where is this bright red blood that everyone talks about? And then we were actually going to
which is funny, because it's like you've seen the progression, like it is about to happen, and instead you've gone, what is this? Are you kidding me? Like
definitely. And we were at Dream World, and
can I just say I love that part of this happening on that day. I'm like, you're kidding, right? She's at Dream World. Her dream's coming true. Her kids are having the best day of their life.
I know, it couldn't have gone any better, really.
And I think your daughter had the girl power top on as well. And I'm like,
she did.
It's all perfect.
And that wasn't planned. That was not planned at all. Kind of just happened.
Yeah, no, it was all perfect. I love it.
Yeah. And so we went to Dream World, and I remember going to the toilet in Dream World, and there it started. It was red. It was bright. It was there. And I came out, and I like hugged my husband. I hugged my kids, and even my brother, who's a pharmacist, and he's been along this journey the whole time with me. And I showed him a photo, and he's like, you know what? I actually would normally say, that's fucking disgusting. But he's like, I know how bad you wanted this, and I know how hard you've worked it. I've been with you through the tears. I've been with you through reading the medications and, like all these things. And he was so, so proud of me and so happy. And my kids were like, Mom, yay, you can exercise with us again. And, everyone was just, just an amazing moment, and something that I'd worked so hard for. So
you really did.
Which to people that aren't going through this, they were like, why are you so excited about this? Like, no one.
That'll be for like forever after though.
People. Yeah.
Still every month when I get my period, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And my girlfriends are like, why? And I'm like, hey, if you lose it for a long amount of time, you'll be very happy when it shows up as well. You know, someone trying to fall pregnant or whatever, obviously very different situation, because it's like, oh, it's here, damn it. But if you've lost it and then you're expecting it to show up, or you can't wait for it to show up, it's like now and forever after, as it will be for you. It's like every month, it's like, good job. That's what it feels like. It's like a pat on the back. Good job. Like you're looking after your body the best way you can. Good job. So now every month you've got that to look forward to.
Well, hopefully, I'm kind of at the point now where I think CD 12 or 13, and those mind things are ticking in again. I'm like,
oh, it is. It's so testing. The next 3-4 months, it's like, am I doing too much? Am I doing it all right? Is it going to show up on time? Yeah. It's like, you know what? It could show up late. It could show up on time. We don't know. But either way, your body is it's working so hard to get its rhythm back. Yeah. And that first one has happened though. So like, hey, were you on a high? The day I got my period, I was like, I felt like I was just skipping and my hair was whipping all day.
And I remember like being in the cubicle at Dreamworld and just like air punching.
Yeah.
I did it. You know, like
insert like Rocky theme song.
Absolutely crazy to think that, you know, like, I think back to that scared person 14 months ago and how petrified I was of the journey. And it's so worth it. But not just to get your period back, to just have your life back and not have to, just ever since then, like, you know, like I went away again for work, and I remember the very first time I went away for work. I go away twice a year. And I remember the very first time was before I was diagnosed, and I packed every single meal, down, measured, very, you know, all weighed out. I had it all packed in an esky, drove to Toowoomba, had it all set out. This was my breakfast. This was my lunch. This was my dinner. And I wasn't, you know, I wasn't going away from that. And I was, you know, had checked to make sure that there was a gym at the motel that I was staying at, and all these things. And, you know, just that's not me anymore. And that's so freeing, so freeing.
Do you feel like you've got the capacity to just enjoy life better because you don't have all of those things on your mind all the time, like what to eat, when to train, you know, and then you've got to juggle your family life, social events, your work life. Like there's actually so much on your to-do list when you add in all those things, where now you're in a position where, let's say you do have a family trip or a vacation. It's like, oh, we'll just get lunch on the run. Oh, we can just like wing it, literally. Like I think I say to so many women, that you underestimate how fun it can be to allow for spontaneous plans. Like just, I'll go with it. Because as you said, even with packing lunches, it's like, well, how are you going to store it? How many days food do you need? If you go away from your fridge, like, can you still come back to the fridge in time to get your food again? Like there's actually so much involved with meal prep, especially when you're traveling, versus just, oh, what's everybody eating? That's just
so much. And I hate the diet culture for that, and I hate that it's still such a big thing. And I've still got some girlfriends that are still very involved in that, and I want to pick them up and hug them and say, this isn't what life's about. Like it's not, it's really not. And you know, then I've got other girlfriends that, you know, can pick up a packet of chips or a box of shapes and just hold it down and not even think twice. And I just look at them and I think, that's phenomenal. Good on you. That is amazing, because for so long I couldn't do that. Like, so
it's something you admire, isn't it? When you're like really stuck in the diet world, when you watch people just make a decision and you can see there's no effort behind it. It's literally like, oh, I will eat the chips, or I will have the chicken parma, or I will have the salad. Like it doesn't matter. It could be any kind of food choice. But there isn't all this inner dialogue as to, well, when did you last eat? When are you due to eat again? What did you train today? When are you going to train next? Blah, 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 just to make one decision. And I guess that's where perspective is everything, because when you've lived that life, you can observe people who are very like natural with their choices around food. Like they simply just pick, and it is a very simple thing. And going through the HA process, and I'd love to hear your view on it, that is sort of the blessing in disguise about it, is it gives you freedom back. It takes you out of the shackles, and it allows you to see things in a different light. Like, suddenly getting your period is magical all the time versus just being that dreaded thing that shows up every month.
Yeah.
Or being able to just enjoy plans on the fly is really exciting again. It's like, oh, I love that I can just jump in the car with my family and go. But if you haven't had that past life, you don't know the comparison. You don't know how lovely it is to just be able to do that.
Yeah, and how trapped it feels too. I think back to this time, 18 months ago, and I think, oh my God, like I was so trapped. And it's amazing to just feel free. So, whilst I am still coming to terms with where my body has ended up, and has it even ended up here? I don't know. Like, I don't, I've still got many periods to come yet, but, I do still struggle with that, and I'm not going to pretend I don't. But what has come from it, that's what keeps me grounded. And I think, the freedom and the personality and the not peeing 100 times a night and not being cold all the time, and just the love with my family and the lollies with the kids, and the ice cream
Connection.
with the kids. Yeah, I remember saying to Claudia right back at the start, like, I just want to be able to go and say, let's go get some fish and chips, and let's go get some burgers, and just go to the beach and do that, and afterwards let's have an ice cream like I used to. And yeah, we went to the Gold Coast, and every night I was celebrating, absolutely celebrating. But every night after dinner, the kids and I would get a gelato from one of the million, gelato bars down in Surfers. And it was special. It was amazing. So it was something that I didn't do for a long time. And yeah, I guess people going through it will know what I'm talking about, but there's also probably people that will listen to this that will be like, oh my God, I can't believe that's even a big thing, because it's just normal. But for some people it's not. So
Yeah, no, and it's not. And that's where I guess the leaps and bounds are so huge. And I guess for anyone who's listening, if you think back to when you first embarked on the HA journey, eat more, train less, heard all that information, terrified, can't do that, like can't be the right solution. Is it worth it?
100%. Definitely. It is definitely worth it. Like I said, just to have that freedom back. And if you've got a family, to have that time back with your family. And if you haven't got a family, and that's, what your outcome is, you're hopeful for a family to give you the foundations of, being free and being flexible, so that when you do have a family, you can have some of their birthday cake. Like, I can't remember the amount of birthday cakes that I've missed out on over the years, because that didn't count into my macros, like it is really so important that we only have one life. And do we really want to look back and say, yeah, I was skinny, but I didn't enjoy those moments with my kids? Like, hell no.
I like that you brought up the birthday cake thing too, because in the moment, it's just you're ditching calories. Like, that's what it feels like. Oh, why would I have cake? It's so calorie dense, and I'm da da da. But really, the cake is so social, and it's so much fun, and it unites people together, especially if it's a birthday or a celebration of some sort. Like, food really does unite us and bring joy. And when you only see it as a calorie, it totally wipes that away. So to be able to go to social events and say yes to the food there, it not only gives, is tasty and delicious, but it brings you back and allows you to just be present in the moment and to actually really enjoy it, rather than just be like, I'm attending.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just the social aspect of it has been amazing. And because for so long we would go to these social events, but I'd have my own little container with my salad and my brown rice and my chicken, and not even look at anything else. Like, so it's so nice to not have to do that, or be invited to places and actually eat what people are serving and not take my own food. So yeah, I can't believe I did that.
It's so funny though, because it's people that have recovered, and mentally and physically, because some people obviously get their period back sooner, but they haven't done the mental side of things. Like, there's still shackles there. And sometimes that can be the downfall of HA recovery, happening too quick, because you're not forced to do all that foundational work. But to be able to look back and go, wow, like, I was a bit crazy, because you'd never see that. You would never see it in the moment.
No.
And you know, like we can joke and say crazy. We don't actually mean crazy. But when you're in it, and if you're listening to this, like it feels like you can't exist in life without all of these behaviors. Like this is you, but it's so far from the truth. Like it's a choice, yes. Like you're choosing to do all these behaviors, but it's not who you are. It's not what you do. And like it's amazing how much you think that living freely is impossible until you just start taking one small step, like just the smallest of steps. It doesn't matter. And you just keep going and going and going until you end up in a position like us where it's like polar opposite. I can't believe I used to live that way versus living that way and being like, oh, I could never do that. I could never just eat out on the fly or not exercise. Like, no.
I remember when Claudia said to me right back at the start, asked if I wore a fitness watch, and I was like, yeah, of course I wear a fitness watch. And I challenge you to take it off. And I think about this now and it blows my mind how stupid it was. But I would wear my Apple Watch, and as we all know, like the Apple Watch have the rings, and I would make it my mission that those rings would be closed every day. And even on my rest day Sunday, if it didn't close, I would put the watch, it's so stupid. I would put my watch on my son's wrist and tell him to go and run and go and just to close it, because it had, you know, you've closed your ring for 675 days in a row or whatever it was. And I couldn't break that cycle. And so for ages, Claudia's like, take your watch off. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I can't break that cycle.
Yeah.
And just one night I remember laying in bed, and even like I'd put it on the weights training thing, because even if you're not weights training, it's the only one of the only
it up a little bit
that bumps up those calories, whereas like the walking and stuff, it goes on your heart rate. And anyway, so I'd put it on the weights training or the strength training, and it would tick over while I'd lay in bed and just to close my rings. And yeah, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? What a retard. So one day I just was like, that is it.
No, but that's really funny though, because in that example, which is a great example, is that you weren't even attached to the physical exertion. You're attached to the rings being closed. And that's how tricky our mind can be. It's like you started off using the Fitwatch to measure everything, and somehow it led to a spot where like the day has to finish with rings tied. Yeah, and that didn't happen overnight. That slowly built up and festered.
I remember her saying to me for ages, get rid of that watch, get rid of it. And I couldn't do it. And then, like, you know, I'd stopped the exercise by that point.
But you still got the rings closing.
And so the rings would close, and I'd meet my next day and I'd meet my target. And then just one night I remember laying in bed and I said, you know what? I'm not going to die in my sleep tonight if this ring doesn't close. I'm going to do it. And I took the watch off and I didn't close the rings, and I don't think I wore it again for 3 or 4 months after that. And then I have started wearing it again, but not to close the rings, and it's not on at the funny, but you know, got the tan there, but
I was going to say, you sure it's not there? Because it looks there.
So it's funny, like just those little, it's just stepping.
But that's where you've got power over the watch rather than watch having power over you. So you wear it now and you might observe the data, but it's purely an observation. It's not, I can't fulfill my day without seeing this data, which is why now you can choose to wear it or choose not to wear it. It actually doesn't matter because nothing else relies on it. It's just I can tell the time. I can tell my heart rate when I swim to make sure I'm not doing too much. Like it's a tool.
Yeah. And I think back to that moment. I think, oh my God, like I can't believe I held on to that for so long. And at the end of the day, no one knew whether they were closed or not except for me, you know, so why did it matter? But anyway.
No, but that's how these things start. I love that story though. It's a good one. Well, Anita, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey, because it's been an incredible one. And like I said, there's so many women who listen to the podcast who are like, yeah, but I've had my kids, or I'm in my 30s. I'm just not sure if HA recovery is for me, or I've been told I'm going through menopause. So I just hope that them listening to your story is that beacon of hope that they need to just continue with the process and just honor healing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope it helps anyone else that's going through this, because life's more than just exercise and restrictive eating. So get that joy back in your life. And for me, that's what I'm so glad that I remember, like, there were times where I was like, I don't know, I can't go forward, I can't go backwards. I'm hit between a rock and a hard place. And I remember thinking to myself, one day I will get to the other side of it, and I'll be so proud that I stuck with it. And I am, I'm here now.
Okay, you know what? That's one of the first things you said to me. I remember you saying, I can't wait to be the person that inspires other women to do this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And I remember you saying, I can't wait to just be able to tell my story.
Even though I was so over it and so ready to quit, that was always in the back of my mind, like, no, you've come this far, you've already gained this weight, you've already done everything you need to do. Why stop now? Like, what are you going to prove? And I couldn't go back, because I remember saying to my son right at the start, he's like, why does it matter, Mum? And I was like, oh, because it, it affects your heart and it affects your bones and it affects, like, and I just wanted to kind of like break it down to him as to why I was doing what I was doing. And I remember saying to him one day, like, oh, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do it anymore. And he said to me, Mum, you can't, but what about your heart and what about your bones? And, and I was like, yeah. And that moment I was like, okay, I can do this. And I did, and I am going to do it. And I did do it. And yeah, so for anyone out there listening, it is doable and it is hard, but it's so worth it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Anita, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. See you guys.